So without further ado, let's start with today's topic. And this is on everybody's mind because 2020 was consumed by this COVID-19 pandemic, and we're hopefully starting to see some hope, some light at the end of the tunnel as we move forward. So I would like to invite one of our partners, Dr. Neeta Gautam, to deliver her message from Stanford Care. And to memorialize today's session, endorsing the partnership between ICC, Crack the Wellness Code, and Stanford. Over to you, Neeta.
Thank you, Pankaj. Dear guests, my name is Neeta Gautam. I'm a practicing family physician at Stanford and at the Center for Asian Healthcare Liaison to the Indian Community Center. It is with great honor that I welcome you to the inaugural ICC Crack the Wellness Code and Stanford Center for Asian Health Research and Education Community Partnership Conference. Since its 2018 founding, CARE has continued its commitment to research, education, and community empowerment. In 2019 and 2020, CARE provided seed grants to over a dozen researchers investigating topics ranging from traditional Asian medicine to pharmacogenetic differences influencing anesthetic outcomes. CARE has partnered with Stanford Open Journal System to establish a novel journal for Asian health, filling gaps in knowledge of Asian health burdens. Other collaborations include both domestic and international partnerships, including Aroga World, the South Asian Heart Center, the Asian Pacific Fund, and the Rutgers Institute for Aging Research. CARE has partnered with international universities to establish enrichment programs for the study of Asian health. Today's virtual program will allow us to advance our mutual goals of increasing health and wellness in our local communities. I am thrilled that today's online platform will allow you to meet one of the most preeminent Stanford faculty in infectious diseases, Dr. Aruna Subramanian. Dr. Subramanian is a graduate of the University of Michigan Medical School, completed her internal medicine residency at Case Western, and her fellowship in infectious diseases at Johns Hopkins. She has published extensively, received numerous awards for her research, and has been featured in the media for her groundbreaking work in COVID-19. Today, we have the unique privilege of learning from a leading expert in the field. The topic today is top of mind for everyone, COVID vaccines. Today's talk will cover important topics, including vaccine efficacy and safety for all populations. I'm delighted to welcome you to this event on COVID vaccines. We hope you enjoy the wealth of knowledge that will be shared. And with that, I turn it over to Dr. Subramanian.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. So today, I'm really honored to talk to you all about COVID-19 vaccines. I'm going to be talking to you, though, about perspectives and expectations and experiences over the last year since I've been involved in COVID-19 research. Since the beginning of the pandemic, since last February, March, we got into this. And we have learned so much over the last year. Things have moved so amazingly fast that we're learning new things each day. So in this talk, I'll be talking to you about the scope of the pandemic overall, and then COVID-19, the whole disease spectrum, talk a little bit about the treatment trials, both inpatient and outpatient, and then get into some of the nitty-gritty of the vaccine development and the vaccine data as it's been moving forward and what we can expect in the future. So the scope of the pandemic, it's really been such a worldwide problem. Our whole lives have turned upside down thanks to COVID-19. Who would have imagined this a year ago, right? And you can see that many countries have been very much affected by this, especially the United States, but India, Europe, many countries in South America. It's really become part of our day-to-day life, and we're all having to, change our lives because of this pandemic. The overall numbers, this is from the Johns Hopkins dashboard, that overall we've seen 26 million plus cases in the US. India has seen more than 10 million cases at least reported, and overall deaths from this have been more than 2 million globally, and in the US we're getting close to 500,000 deaths. So the death rate overall has been lower in places like India, thankfully, for many reasons, partially due to a younger age demographic and other reasons too. But let's focus on cases and deaths in the US. Finally, we had a huge spike recently, but finally the current cases are going down. That's the graph on the left. And on the right, we're starting to level off in terms of deaths overall. But as you can see, we're nowhere near what we were in the summer. The lower, yes, we're going down, but we're not at the low extent that we need to be. And this is in California. Many of us are here in California, and our cases are finally decreasing, you can see, but deaths always lag behind that. And you can see that the number of deaths is just starting to level off. So we see that lag a few weeks behind the number of cases, unfortunately. So what are these coronaviruses? Are they something completely new? We do have seasonal coronaviruses that circulate every year like colds, but we've had a few that are more likely to cause problems in the past. So SARS was first seen around November 2002, and it mainly went from China to Toronto. The case fatality rate was 9.5%. So people died, but it wasn't as infectious from person to person, and they were able to get this under control. Then came the Middle East respiratory virus, which MERS, which started in 2012 and mostly was seen in Saudi Arabia, thought from camels and other clusters that came around there, about 2,000 cases. The case fatality rate was much higher at 34.4%, but it was also very much controlled and didn't spread. Then came SARS-CoV-2, and I think people took it a little bit too lightly, thought it would be very easy to control, thought to be possibly originated from bats and then an intermediate host and then humans. And of course, we know it was first found in last November in China and then quickly genetically sequenced by January 2020. And then it started moving around the world. The virus itself has this interesting structure. It has this sort of helmet around it with little spikes on the outside. And you can see here, the spike protein are these green things on the outside of the virus. And that is what our bodies see. When the virus gets into your body, your immune system sees these little spike proteins and then makes antibodies, makes an immune response to these spike proteins. And that's what we want the vaccine to do. That's why most of the vaccines contain some form, whether it's the genetic coding for the spike protein or the spike protein itself, because that's what you want the body to make an immune response to. That spike protein attaches to a receptor, ACE2 receptor, and we need to sort of prevent that attachment and also kill the virus at the same time. So these are this is the way the vaccine is being made. And COVID-19 has such a big spectrum overall. So I want to tell you that some people have very mild symptoms, as you know. Some people don't even have symptoms, and then it can go all the way to being fatal. So it's really, we don't have great predictors of who's going to be very sick from this, but we know some of the risk factors. The incubation period is in the first 3 to 5 days. So you can be exposed and not have symptoms yet for several days. And that's when people are infectious without even knowing it. And that's why this spreads so easily. That incubation period is longer than with some of the other respiratory viruses. And that's why, we have to be even more careful. That's why the masks are important, even when you're not sick, because those few days before you develop symptoms is probably when you're almost the most infectious to other people. Then you may have your onset of symptoms. They can start with mild fevers, cough, fatigue, not feeling like eating, body aches, diarrhea. Some people present with GI upset and diarrhea. And then some people just have that and then it gets better. But if about a week into your symptoms, you're still having shortness of breath, here it says dyspnea, that means shortness of breath. If you start to feel short of breath, that's not something that you should take lightly. It's something that we have to keep an eye on. It's very good to have a pulse ox machine or something that's going to check your oxygen at home and keep track of that. If your cough is worsening or you're getting more short of breath, then it's good to be seen. Make sure you get a chest x-ray, and then because a few days later, the illness can get very severe. About 14% of symptomatic patients develop severe illness, and 5% develop critical illness, meaning they have to go to the ICU and aren't able to breathe, and then they need intubation. So it's a very small percent of people, and it's easy to take it lightly if you only know people who have had very mild symptoms. That's why so many people think it's just like the flu, but there's a very small fraction who go on to get very severe symptoms, and that's what's so hard to explain, and why it's so critical to get the vaccine to prevent those severe and critical illnesses. And the stage of the disease, this is very important when coming up with treatment options, because you have to know not every medication is correct at certain stages of the illness. So the early stage of disease is really where the virus is making more and more copies of itself. The virus is replicating, and a lot of the symptoms are from the viral replication. So that's why early on, direct antivirals, medications that actually kill the virus, are important. We don't have very many medicines like that in the outpatient setting. We don't have anything approved in the outpatient setting that you can take early on. There are monoclonal antibodies, and they often help at this early stage because they directly fight the virus. Then later on, as people get sick, when they're hospitalized and you see that they need help with breathing and other things, that's when it's their own inflammatory response. The body is trying to fight the virus, and that's when you see that they're very sort of inflamed in their lungs and other parts of the body, and that's when they need help with sometimes intubation and other things. It's the host, the patient themselves is developing this inflammatory response, and the type of treatments that we give at that stage are more on the anti-inflammatory side, like steroids and other anti-inflammatory medications. So the stage of disease is very important as to what type of treatment. And then I told you that there are risk factors for more severe disease, but you can't predict. There are people who fall into these risk factor categories and don't have very severe disease. But if you have these, then of course you're at higher risk. The biggest risk factor is older age, and that's why we are really focused on getting vaccine to the elderly population, because, you know, and somebody took offense to be called older at greater than 65 years. So I should say, maybe I shouldn't say older age, but in more number of years, you have risk factor for more severe disease. And then, of course, other risk factors are important, but not as important as age, is chronic lung disease, heart disease, diabetes, obesity is a big risk factor. People whose immune system is lower, that's immunocompromised patients, kidney disease and liver disease. All of these are risk factors. But as I said, older age is one of the most important, and obesity is an important factor here too. So people's weight. So the treatment trials that I have been involved with, and a lot of people all over the world have been working on these inpatient treatment trials. We started with remdesivir, which is an early antiviral that was used in Ebola and now is being used in COVID-19. As you can see in this graph, remdesivir had more people recover faster than when we gave placebo. Is it a knockout of the park? Does it cure? I've been asked, does it cure people? Not really. It just helps you get better faster, just like Tamiflu helps you get faster from the flu. It doesn't completely cure you from the flu. It doesn't completely prevent things from getting worse, but it helps, as I said, helps you get out of the hospital faster, off oxygen faster. So this clearly can't be used on its own, right? Because it doesn't completely cure the illness. That's why we have to use a combination approach. Remdesivir along with steroids, along with monoclonal antibodies, and other things are what we try together. Now we're really trying to do a combination approach in terms of treatment to get people better. The good news is that our overall death rates have gone down. We're taking better care of people in the hospital thanks to all these things that we've learned. But what we'd really like is to prevent people from being hospitalized in the first place. Then these outpatient trials for early treatments have been very important as well. We tried lambda interferon at Stanford, showed that it didn't hurt people, but it didn't make any difference into getting them better faster. We're trying a medication called Favipiravir. We're almost done with the trial at Stanford, a phase 2 study. It's already approved in several countries and in India as well. We've done various monoclonal antibody trials. We're doing combination therapies and plasma trials. So the thing that we need to do is get medicines into people early. And right now, the monoclonal antibodies are available for early treatment. So if anybody does get sick, hopefully not, but if you do, please contact your physicians early to try to get monoclonal antibodies, especially if you're over age 75. So now, but what can we do to even avoid all of that? And that is vaccination. That's really the important thing to make sure that we can sort of live a more normal life, get back to our usual state of doing things. And that's when we can all get vaccinated. We'll be able to do that. And what are the ideal characteristics of a good vaccine? You want a very good safety profile. You want things that are not going to cause too many adverse effects, any bad effects. And our vaccines so far are doing that. You know, there's a lot of press about, oh, this person had a terrible allergic reaction, anaphylaxis. Anaphylaxis is seen only 1 in a million in these types of vaccine trials, whereas with penicillin, the numbers are much lower. Much greater. You have penicillin anaphylaxis sometimes are reported 1 in 10,000. So it's these vaccines, we hear the bad press, but they're actually very, very safe. You want a rapid, so quick production of immunity and durable immunity. You want the immunity to last. So far, we know that if you've been infected, you have good immunity for 6 to 8 months. And from other coronaviruses, we know that some immunity does last for years. So hopefully with these vaccines, we'll also see that. You want rapid mass production. We've had good mass production. What we haven't had is great distribution and getting it out to sites that need it, but that's another thing. And then stable shelf life. Of course, it would be ideal if the temperature requirements aren't too severe so that it's easy to store. And we want to achieve at least 70% efficacy in recipients. We've done much better than that, more than 95% efficacy in some of them. And it should be active against new variants. We are seeing now mutations in the genetic code of these viruses, and we have to make sure that the vaccines will allow everybody to have good immune responses even to these new mutated viruses. And then the other question we get is, how has it moved so fast? How has vaccine development moved so fast? You know, can I trust it? But the good thing is that people were working on these technologies since the time of SARS and MERS. I told you that SARS was from 2002. So they've known about similar viruses for many years. So this is new, and yet there's a lot of similarities that they were able to use based on previous knowledge. The publication of the full genome sequence happened last January itself, very fast. And then these new DNA and RNA vaccine platforms were already being developed for many, many years, and now just found an immediate use. The nice thing about RNA vaccines is that the manufacturing is actually simpler than some of the other types of vaccines, like the protein vaccines. So RNA vaccine, even though it's a fairly new technology, the manufacturing is not that difficult. So it was able to get reviewed and approved quite quickly. And there's been a lot of money and resources committed, thankfully, to vaccine development worldwide. We all know about Operation Warp Speed, so that there's been a lot of commitment in all countries around the world. The New York Times has a very nice coronavirus vaccine tracker that will update you on how many vaccines are in development. So you can see 36 are in phase 1, that they're testing safety and dosage. 25 are in expanded safety trials, that's phase 2. 20 have made it to phase 3, large-scale efficacy tests. 7 have been authorized in earlier limited use. 3 have been approved for full use, and 4 were abandoned after their trials. So pretty good track record, you can see. When you compare it to development of different medications and others, this has been amazingly fast. This is a slide made by Dr. Monica Gandhi at UCSF. I made it a little simpler, that I took out one column, but you can see these are the vaccines that we are looking at now against SARS-CoV-2. Moderna, I'll go over the platform, I'll explain it a little bit more in a minute, but it's an mRNA vaccine that requires 2 doses. In the trials, 15,000 people got it. So it's not that, you know, this is some small number of people. And the thing she wanted to highlight here is that there was 100% protection in all of these from hospitalizations and death, and 100% protection from severe disease for this. And then in milder disease, 94% protection. The Pfizer vaccine is very similar. It's also an mRNA vaccine with 2 doses. Thousands of people got it. Similarly, 100% protection from hospitalization, death, and severe disease, 95% efficacy against milder disease. These were tested before the new mutations, before the new vaccine variants, the new virus variants have come out. So it's a little bit hard to compare apples to oranges, but we do know that the other vaccines are also very effective against protection from hospitalizations and death and severe disease. Astrazeneca uses an adenovirus with the DNA against the spike protein fused to it, and that also requires 2 doses. Also excellent protection, with 90% protection when they use the half dose for the first dose. J&J, Johnson & Johnson vaccine, is what we tested at Stanford. And that advantage is that it only has 1 dose requirement, and it does not require any deep freeze. It has excellent stability in the refrigerator for months. So it can be given in all sorts of a variety of settings and should be easier to get into people's arms. There were 22,000 people in this study with 100% protection from hospitalizations and death, and 85% protection against severe disease, but people were not hospitalized. And then a little bit lower efficacy against milder disease because of the new, when it was tested against the new South Africa and Brazil variants, which have a little bit of escape. These mutations are not always, you don't always have full protection against them with the vaccines. But what we want to focus on are really that most people do not, there were no people who required hospitalization, and nobody died in these studies. So it's really, that's what we're focused on with the vaccination. Novavax has a protein from the virus that's given to people, and then you develop an immune response to it. Sputnik 5 is the Russian vaccine, which uses adenovirus vectors. So sort of these dud viruses bring in the DNA of some of the virus, and then your body's able to produce an immune response. So as I wanted to, another doc from Brown University, Dr. Ashish Jha, put together this slide of the most important outcomes of these vaccine trials. And his point, like Dr. Gandhi's point, is that the number of hospitalized for COVID was 0 in all of these. The number who died from COVID was 0 in all of these. And the number who died from the vaccine was also 0. It's a little bit simplified, but you can see that why we're so excited about these vaccines. Thousands and thousands of people have gotten it. And it really is safer and more effective than any of the vaccines we've seen in the past for other diseases. So as I said, I would explain the vaccine platforms. People don't quite get what it is, but the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine, so the RNA from the virus that codes for that spike protein that's on the outside of the virus, that is inside a little fat droplets, little lipid nanoparticles. And you inject those little droplets into somebody's muscle, and the fat droplets, the lipid nanoparticles, allow it to go into cells, and then the mRNA, which normally if you gave it without that nanoparticle covering, would just get shredded up. Here it actually goes into the cells, and the cells can make lots of proteins. They use that messaging, that coding, to make lots of the spike protein, and then your body can make immune responses, antibodies, T-cell responses, so that the next time, if it ever sees this SARS-CoV-2 virus, it will react and it will kill the virus. That's what the vaccine response is. The J&J vaccine doesn't use RNA, it has the DNA that encodes this virus, this protein that comes with this dud adenovirus, this defective virus that allows it to get into the cell, and then the spike protein gets made and your body develops an immune response. Astrazeneca, that's being used in India, the Covishield virus, that uses another chimpanzee adenovirus that also gets into your cells, and then the DNA of the spike protein can make proteins to allow the immune response. Novavax uses an older technology, the purified protein itself that gets that's given as the vaccine. Covaxin is an Indian vaccine. Biotech makes it, and that actually uses killed or inactivated SARS-CoV-2 virus. That's one of the few vaccines that actually uses the virus itself that's been killed. And then Sputnik 5 uses 2 adenovirus vectors, 2 of these dud viruses that take the DNA in. So there's different technologies, which is really nice to know, so that if people aren't able to use one for some reason, or the storage is not there for the deep freezer that's needed for the RNA vaccines, then you have other options. And they didn't want to put all their eggs in one basket, right? When we were trying to get vaccines made quickly, it was really great that governments didn't put all their eggs in one basket. But it's really nice to know that different vaccines using different technologies are available. The guidelines are now over the next several months. Now we've started with healthcare personnel and long-term care facility residents. So sort of skilled nursing home residents were 1A. And now we're getting to frontline essential workers, and people aged greater than 75 is in 1B category. So these are guidelines from the CDC to each state government. In 1C category are people aged 65 plus, those who are younger with higher risk medical conditions, and other essential workers, not necessarily frontline essential workers, but other essential workers. And then phase 2 is going to be the entire rest of the population. So hopefully we can get this moving fast. There's been some missteps initially, but hopefully the distribution is getting better. What we want to get to is herd immunity, and that's different from individual immunity. It means that there's protection from infection due to the presence of many immune individuals in the population, and it can be gradual or partial. We want to get to a point where enough people are vaccinated that we'll have less and less transmission within the community, and then more and more people will get protected because they're less likely to find that other people are infected, and there are fewer vectors, fewer people who can pass on the infection in the community. How are we doing so far? The number of COVID-19 vaccines that have been administered so far is mind-boggling. Then we hear that so many people haven't gotten it yet, and yet, the numbers are just tremendous. So some of the Midwestern states have done better than some, like California and some of the other states. I think more because there's fewer hospitals where all the vaccines are concentrated, and they're giving it out, fewer health systems. And these are the numbers. The total doses delivered, 58 million, 36.8 million administered, 28.9 million people have received more than one dose, and 7.5 million have received 2 doses. So it's coming, and hopefully everybody will get a chance to get one soon as it's offered to everyone. But remember, as we're getting the vaccine, we still need to do our social distancing and masks. Vaccine doesn't always prevent against mild illness, so you can still get the virus. You can still be exposed to it. So we still need to use our masks, do our social distancing until we get enough herd immunity and the numbers really go down and we get enough protection out there. So this Mahatma is saying, so the person is coming up to him and saying, "Oh, wise one, what is the path back to health and happiness?" He says, "Back up 6 feet and I'll tell you." So even Mahatmas are recommending social distancing. That's the end of my presentation, but happy to take questions. And
wow, what an amazing summary in such a short time. You've encapsulated just so much knowledge. And I would like to start off with a couple of questions from actually one of our very proud second generation CWC members. Her name is Shellfish Allergy. She happens to be the daughter of Somnath, and we're very proud of her because she was part of the founding team at Lucira Health that had an IPO last week. And they've come out with a nasal swab for a home-based COVID test that can give a result within 30 minutes. And I think they've been involved with some vaccine work as well. I need to learn more about that. But Natasha has a couple of really good, smart questions. The first one is, once approved and deployed to the public, what are the metrics used to measure the efficacy of the vaccine? In other words, how do you measure effectiveness in the real world as opposed to what they did in the clinical trial? How do we know it's working?
That's a great question. Yeah. So, I mean, the most immediate effect you see is the fewer number of cases of patients, a fewer number of severe infections, and fewer numbers of hospitalizations. So that's the immediate effect. But of course, we need more studies, and people are doing studies on the antibody levels, how long do those antibodies last in the system, T-cell immunity, which is very important as well. So all parts of the immune response, how long is it lasting? How efficacious is it? All of that we don't know yet, but it is being followed in patients who are part of the trial, and then I'm sure it'll be rolled out even to the general public as time.
So we're seeing some decrease in numbers already, but I don't know what's going to happen after Super Bowl Sunday tomorrow.
Yeah.
Another rise.
Right.
Takash has another really good question. That's about the role of diagnostic testing, and we know why she would be interested in that.
Yeah.
The role of diagnostic testing in the context of vaccine deployment, monitoring, and long-term management.
I think it's so important. You know, I was asked to talk about vaccines and treatments, but really testing and tracing and tracking has been super important in this whole pandemic and getting it under control. Places that got it under control fast really did a lot of testing. I feel like our, even the regular testing we're doing here, some places it's taking 3 to 5 days to get a result. And people aren't always, taking too much care during that time. I had a gentleman who I was seeing in the hospital who told me his boss was so mad at him because he had gotten the test. It took too long for the test to return. So he went to work. He couldn't afford to stay home. And his coworkers were sick as well. I think home-based testing, fast testing, really tracing contacts is still very, very important and will continue to be important for a long time in this.
Excellent, yes. And she has a third question, which is a question that I've already asked you as well, which was the possibility of a combined vaccine for influenza and SARS-CoV-2.
I know they've been talking about that, maybe doing one dose of the mRNA vaccine and then doing a viral vector vaccine as well. That requires, companies to work together. So I think they need to also be incentivized sometimes to work together. And that's why there's more public-private partnerships for the treatment trials. That has been happening, the public-private partnerships. And so a variety of treatment trials we have going on in the hospital, active 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They involve different medications from different companies being combined and studied together in different stages of the illness. I think the same thing will have to happen in terms of vaccine if we want to get those combinations. But theoretically, I think it's very interesting.
Excellent. Excellent. Here's a question again, I get asked this a lot too. What are the other factors that we see lower deaths in India, other than the age that 50% of the population is under 25?
That's a great question. Some people say, that the right people not everybody used masks all the time, but those, who were really have essential workers who are gathering more, really are, follow the rules and really use the masks. And we're very much focused on hygiene, in certain places. That I think that was true. The other thing that, people, it hasn't quite panned out, but maybe they're just the idea that they have more mucosal immunity. Like if you're exposed to other pathogens all the time, you might have better immunity overall in your mucosa. And so, in fact, there was initially, before these COVID-specific vaccines came out, we were looking at oral poliovirus and even MMR vaccines, not as a direct vaccine against COVID-19, but something that will really get your immunity overall in your nose and mouth and GI tract stronger to fight off these types of things. So there are a lot of theoretical reasons that India could have seen lower rates and lower death rates, but we don't know for sure.
I think what Veena wanted to hear was for you to say that it has something to do with, haldi and, turmeric and ginger and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, it could be that too. I don't mean to take away from, nutritional practices and some of the great things that are Ayurvedic based and that might boost people's immune system. That's a good point too. We just, we don't know that for sure, but I'm sure that, this is a combination of various factors. And I'm just happy to see that rates and especially death rates were much lower. So
wonderful. We have 3 questions from Nandini Garur. We can try to get these quickly. can persons allergic to shellfish safely take the coronavirus vaccine? And do all sites, including community centers, have EpiPens, and are the EpiPens adequate?
Say it again. Sorry,
it sounds like she's asking about shellfish allergy and EpiPen.
Yeah, I haven't heard any problem with shellfish per se. Polyethylene glycol allergy is one thing that they do mention, especially with the mRNA vaccines, because it's pegylated to the lipid particle. As I said, to get into the cell, the mRNA would get shredded if it wasn't, if you just gave it by itself as an injection. So it has to be sort of pegylated to this lipid nanoparticle to get inside. And so that pegylation process, some people rarely have this.
Yeah, but to my knowledge, there isn't an issue with shellfish. And
No.
People allergic to shellfish can safely take the vaccine. And I would imagine that any place that is administering the vaccine, whether it's a community center or a hospital, would have EpiPens and
Yes.
deal with
Yes.
allergies. That's why they observe you for 15 minutes afterwards. So,
Correct.
and so the second question is, if there's a shortage and the second shot isn't available, would the first be completely inadequate?
Oh, that's a good question. So if you can only get one of the two shots, there, we don't know if, let me say what we know. What we know is that 2 weeks after the first shot, the number of people who get infections are much lower. So you have protection from 2 weeks after the first shot. What we don't know is how long will that be. The idea is that the second shot allows for more durability. So, it's not that only one shot is completely useless. You will get some protection just from the one shot.
So would it be fair to say that you're maybe 65% protected from one and 95% protected if you have both?
That is a conservative. In fact, it may even be more protective from one. But I don't want to go into how they came up with the numbers, but between the first and the second vaccine, there were 3 weeks. If you start counting the numbers after 2 weeks, once the protection kicks in, then you get even higher protection from one shot. But anyway, so one shot is quite protective, and especially if you've had COVID-19 and you get one shot, that may be more than adequate for long-term protection. We don't know that yet.
Okay. And along the same lines, the third question, there's a lot of people wondering about Johnson & Johnson versus Pfizer versus Moderna. Which one is better? Is it better to wait for Johnson & Johnson and something like that?
I would say, I would take whatever's offered to you, whatever's available to you right away. I would say Moderna and Pfizer have been been shown to have such good outcomes, such good protection, that I would go ahead and take those. There's some question whether Johnson & Johnson, because it had less efficacy against milder disease, does it make it a worse vaccine? As I was saying before, it's hard to really compare that, because where the efficacy went down was in places where they had these new mutations for the virus. And so I still think that's an excellent vaccine as well. And so I would take whatever, I wouldn't wait. I would say it's more important to get the vaccine that you can now. If you need to down the road, if certain vaccines need a booster, if J&J needs a booster, we'll figure that out over the following year.
Yeah, I like Dr. Fauci's answer when somebody asked him that. Somebody asked him which one is the best vaccine, and he said, when you get to the front of the line, whichever one they're giving, that's the best vaccine.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Get it. Does being immune compromised, for example, asplenic, reduce the efficacy and durability of current approved COVID-19 vaccines? If so, is there a type of vaccine, mRNA versus adenovirus, et cetera, that's better for such individuals, i.e. immune compromised?
That's a great question. And I see immunocompromised patients, I see transplant patients, and I was actually involved with the American Society of Transplant writing the frequently asked question answers for transplant patients. So unfortunately, we don't have that data that any one is better. We do see, the few patients that have been included there have been very few immunocompromised patients included, but if you base it on like the extremes of age per se, you do see still a very good response after 2 doses of the vaccine from Moderna and Pfizer. And that's why they chose the dose that they did and the 2 doses. So I would say that, we don't know if you're immunocompromised, how well your response will be. But I think even if you get some protection, it's better than having no protection at all. So I would recommend you go ahead and take the vaccine.
And here's another one. When will Johnson & Johnson get approved? Is it better to wait?
I wouldn't wait for that. I wouldn't wait. If you're in the age range where you can get Moderna or Pfizer, I recommended it for my parents. My mother already got her first dose of Pfizer vaccine. I wouldn't wait, but and of course I got Pfizer as well. But Johnson & Johnson is going to the FDA on February 26th, and so if they're happy with all the data, then probably a week later after, so by March.
So that's another whole month. And if
yeah,
you can get to the front of the line and get whichever one you can get now.
Right. I would get it now if you can, because, there are still people being admitted to the hospital with severe COVID-19 now.
Yes.
And people are starting to let their guard down. They don't realize we still are seeing, our numbers are going down, but they're nowhere near what we were even at the beginning of the pandemic or in the summer. So,
yeah. And this one's a quick one. If a person has had TB before, they're more or less likely to be affected. Lung disease, more likely, right?
If you've had TB, yeah. If you have asthma or other lung disease, yes, you're more likely to
Right.
have worsening symptoms. Yes.
And Chandrasekhar Sharma is asking, how long is the vaccine effective? We don't know for sure.
We don't know for sure yet. We do know that we expect that immunity will last a long time, because with infection, we're seeing good T cell and B cell responses 8 months out. With SARS, you still see immune responses 5 years out. So there's no reason to think that the immunity won't be long lasting for this as well.
And he also, I don't know what this means, but he just wrote alcohol and vaccine. I think it means, can I drink after I get the shot?
Oh, I would say they're not really related, but I feel, on another note, we're seeing a lot of alcoholic hepatitis now in the pandemic in our transplant patients, liver transplant patients. So just everybody should be careful about how much they drink, because I feel like, but it has nothing to do with the vaccine. So
okay. If anyone has a throat infection, is there a possibility to get infected by coronavirus?
If you have if you already have an infection, are you more likely to get another? Yes, you might. Some of these viruses make you more likely, like if you have the flu, you're more likely to have a secondary infection. With coronaviruses, we don't see that many secondary infections after them, but you might be more likely to get the infection if you have another infection going on. Yes.
Excellent. Do you see COVID vaccine becoming something that we continue to receive in the future as a booster, like the flu vaccine? I think we kind of talked about that.
Maybe. It doesn't, coronaviruses don't mutate as fast as the flu does in the same way, but we might need to, Moderna and Pfizer are already looking at what changes they need to make to their vaccine based on the current mutations. So.
Right. And I think this is someone asking from India, is the Astrazeneca and the Biotech vaccine safe for a 68-year-old living with moderate blood pressure medications and levodopa for Parkinson's disease?
I would say yes, it is safe. It's safer than getting COVID-19, I have to say. So I would say yes.
Okay. And what precautions do you recommend for people who might have to travel to India, or do you advise against it?
I would say you can use the same precautions that you would use Otherwise, even in the US, like masks and taking care. I feel like they're even more careful in India with the Arogya Setu app, and things are quite careful in India. So I would say take the same precautions as are recommended for gathering and masking.
Right. And this is a quick one. Can you take it if you have penicillin or other drug allergies?
Yes, you can take it with other drug allergies. I was just making the point that there are more reactions to penicillin in people who are taking penicillin than there are to COVID-19 vaccines. So, it's safer in some ways than taking penicillin.
Right. And you already said there's no penicillin in the vaccine. No, there's no shellfish.
There's no penicillin.
There's no peanuts. So unless you're specifically allergic to an ingredient, you mentioned the PEG, polyethylene glycol or something like that, specifically that you should be okay with it.
Yeah, so but there was some question that, people with high levels of allergies may have slightly more likelihood of anaphylaxis, and that is true. That's why they watch you, as you said, but we're seeing very, very low rates. Surprisingly low rates of anaphylaxis. I didn't specifically say, most people have a bit of a sore arm and low-grade fevers, and you can take Advil or Tylenol, and it usually gets better within a couple of days.
Excellent. And there's a question about autoimmune diseases, IBD, ulcerative colitis, someone that has an overactive immune system or immune compromise. Is there any data or any particular vaccine that might be better or worse?
That is hard to say that any one would be better or worse. They're all trying to induce an immune response. So, but it's all very specific against the spike protein. All of these vaccines are only producing that, and there doesn't seem to be any reason that one should be better or worse than the other.
Okay.
Say that one thing we didn't talk about here is the long COVID syndrome. People with long haulers with symptoms after COVID, and so all of the symptoms that you hear of people getting after vaccine are much less than what people get after COVID. Especially in these long haulers. So.
Yeah. Here's a question from Mr. Naren Bakshi. He was actually one of our co-founders for Crack the Wellness Code, and certainly my mentors. Is one of my mentors. He's 77 and he's currently in India. He's been stuck in India for a year now. And he's supposed to come back next month. So he's asking if he should get vaccinated in India and then come back, or wait to come back home to Fremont and then get vaccinated here.
I see. I would make sure you can get the full, if you started in India, if you're getting like the Astrazeneca one, what it's called, Covishield, I think, in India, I would make sure you can get both doses, because otherwise you'll have to mix and match, and we don't know the effects of that. If you can't get both, then you can wait and come back. But as we said earlier, is better.
So you're saying whichever one you start with, try to get the second dose. If it requires two, then you should get, if it's Moderna, Pfizer. Covishield.
I would say that. I mean, Moderna and Pfizer could probably be interchanged a bit. They're both, if it's the same technology, maybe you can interchange it a bit. But AstraZeneca is a different technology, so we don't know since we haven't done those studies.
But the Moderna and Pfizer are pretty similar.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a question from Dr. Srinivasan. She's also one of our doctor patrons and a supporter of Crack the Wellness Code. And I hadn't heard of this one. What is the thought of a third shot, as Pfizer is tweaking the vaccine to cover the variants? Or should we get J&J or Novavax to cover the variants?
So, the J&J was less effective against the South Africa variant, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know that getting one of the other vaccines that are available now will help you with the variants, because they haven't taken into account. We're just learning what those mutations are. I think it would be more likely that a booster down the road would be the right way to go.
Okay. And then Chandrasekhar Sharma is saying, I've been given a date for the second vaccine after 4 weeks. So it's longer than the exact 4 weeks. So do we know if it's okay to prolong the gap?
That's a great question. And based on other vaccines, there shouldn't be a problem at all. Like, hepatitis B, other vaccines, we wait. And in fact, there's some data that if you wait a little longer, you actually get a better neutralizing antibodies. You get better immune response and a broader amount of neutralizing antibodies. So there shouldn't be a problem. Waiting a bit longer is not a problem. It's just you just make sure you get that second dose.
So if it's 4 weeks or 5 or 6 weeks or maybe 7 or 8 weeks too, it should still be okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Some people, what happens is if they get COVID in between, then they have to wait anyway. So there are a variety of reasons people have to wait, but there shouldn't be a problem at all.
Okay. And then Dr. Srinivas Ramachandra, who's also one of our doctor patrons and supporter of the program, one of certainly the co-chairs of the doctor patrons, is asking if someone who's recovered from COVID already, how long should they wait to be vaccinated?
Yeah, so if you've recovered from COVID, the CDC guidance is 90 days.
Right.
But it's not necessarily because there's anything dangerous about getting it earlier. It's more because you're unlikely to get reinfected in the 90 days after you get COVID. So the idea is to save it for somebody else. But what I'm telling my patients is that if you get called for the vaccine and it's 60 days after the COVID, there's no reason you shouldn't go get it.
Right.
There is some report that people may have a little more of a reaction, maybe a little more arm pain or fever, but really not, there's nothing dangerous about getting it earlier than the 90 days.
Okay. And then there's a couple of questions about the confusion with vaccine supply. Somebody saying that their appointment got canceled. Is there a shortage? Or somebody saying, I got one shot of Moderna, but they don't have the second one, but Pfizer is available. Could I do that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say talk to your primary care doc about this because each person is different. But yes, distribution has been an issue. And personally, I think it's okay to take one of each, but I don't know that we actually have data to really recommend that. So I would say the best thing for people, individual questions like that would be to talk to your doctor and double check.
Okay. And then there's a couple about side effects, and somebody's saying, are the side effects of the second one more severe? Is the second dose a doozy, somebody says?
Yeah. The idea is that you have more of an immune response at the second dose. So yes, some people do report more symptoms at their second dose. So if at all possible, try to take the day off or, and as I said, it's not a problem to take Advil or Tylenol. There was some early thought that you might reduce your immune response with that, but really it shouldn't be a problem.
And can you take Talon or Advil before going for the vaccine?
With the first vaccine, there's some guidance, maybe not before, but with the second one, there shouldn't be a problem.
For the second dose, it shouldn't be a problem?
Yeah, there shouldn't be a problem.
But for the first one, try to avoid it.
Try to, but even that is more theoretical than anything. I really think, if you're nervous, then go ahead and take it and go. But if you can avoid it for the first dose, there's some theoretical benefit to not.
For how long after the vaccination? After the shot?
No, to take it before.
But you can take it when you get home.
Taking it afterwards is not a problem.
Yeah, the arm pain and stuff doesn't start until 4 to 6 hours after anyway.
Right.
There really isn't any reason to take it before you go.
Yeah. So definitely you can wait till afterwards.
So we know that trials, at least the US ones, were done for people over the age of 16, right? What about pregnancy and breastfeeding?
Oh, good. That I forgot to say that. So the J&J vaccine trial, I can tell you, because we're a site at Stanford. I'm a co-investigator in that. We are starting studies in pregnant women coming up, and we're starting it in children aged 12 to 18 as well. So
Okay.
Right now, the American College of Gynecology does recommend vaccine in pregnant women, just because COVID in pregnant women is to be avoided, but we don't have that much data there, so that's why trials are starting to happen as well.
So they do recommend?
Yes.
Yes.
The ACOG does recommend vaccination in all pregnant women.
For the Pfizer and Moderna, which we do have right now. And then breastfeeding, there's no issue either.
No issue either.
Right. Okay. I know we're running a little bit over time, and these questions are so good. Keep coming. Some of them I think are a little bit repetitive. Immune compromised. So I am an immune compromised attending from India. Which vaccine is better out of the two available in India?
That I don't know. The two available in India are the Covaxin and the Covishield. The Astrazeneca I've seen good data for. That's the Covishield. I haven't seen all the data about Covaxin yet, so it's hard for me to comment on that. But they both seem good. But I feel like I can vouch for the AstraZeneca one since I've seen more data from it. But they should both be good.
Wonderful. Well, you've been very generous with your time, Dr. Subramaniam, and we're very delighted to have you. Do you have any parting words, any words of wisdom you'd like to share?
I just would like to say that, as you said, what you said about Dr. Fauci, I feel like the more vaccines we can get into people's arms, the sooner we can get good immunity in the whole community, and then we can go back to sort of more normalcy in life. So I feel that if people shouldn't be scared of the vaccine, they should see it as a great tool to move forward, and I think it's a very positive thing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. You've been so generous with your time and your knowledge and your wisdom. And we will be forever grateful for you for sharing your time with us this evening. Thank you so much.
Sure.